Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue.
Hello to everybody. Welcome back on this second session.
Hello everyone and welcome to our second session. So I'm going to give us a brief on how to use the interpretation channel. If you look at your screen, you will see the globe icon. So please, when you click on it, it will give you option of a prepared language. So from the drop down box, please select your own prepared language, and then it will automatically take you to the language you will be listening to the program. And if you are using a mobile phone, as displayed here, click on the three dots as displayed on the screen here. So when you click on it, it will also give you the option, the interpretation option. So click on it, that is using the globe icon. When you click on it, it will give you the languages to choose from. Once you click on your preferred language, it will automatically take you to that particular language you selected. And please, when you are speaking, try to speak slowly so that the interpreters can be able to translate what you are contributing. And thank you, and I hope we have a successful deliberation today. And I would like to hand over to my colleague Sheila for the icebreaker. Sheila, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ismail. Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I do not know where you are from, but I hope I captured it in there. If I didn't, greetings. So my name is Sheila, like Ismail said. I am from Uganda. I work with FIDA Uganda as well, the Uganda Association of Women Lawyers. And I have been very, very blessed to, I've been asked to moderate the icebreaker session, and I cannot wait to hear from everyone. So the question that we have for the icebreaker is, what has been the happiest day of your life and why? What has been the happiest day of your life and why? So you will share, most of you will have to share in the chat because we only have 2 minutes for the icebreaker. But I'll go first, and in case anyone else would like to share, perhaps they can raise their hand, but only for a few seconds. So I'll go first. I have a couple of happiest days of my life, but the one that easily came to my mind was one that was quite important. So in 2019, I think I was doing my diploma in law. I was about to finish, and my health started getting very, very problematic. When I went to hospital, they diagnosed me with a severe case of ulcers that had progressed to a point where the doctor said, I'm paraphrasing, it was just moments away from, turning into stomach cancer, which was very, very scary. And at that time, I really, really hated food. I do not know if that's a disease or it's I do not know, but I did not like food even one bit. So, but the pain from the ulcers was really, really excruciating. And I was constantly struggling to keep food down because I didn't like it. I was underweight. But the diagnosis was really a wake-up call for me, and I was forced to really confront the reality of, my mortality. I was only in school and thought of not being able to fulfill all the dreams that I had since I was a kid. It was really devastating and scary. So I had to really wake up. So for a month or 2 or 3, I underwent heavy medication, and I was put on a strict meal plan that I had to adhere to. I also turned to prayer a lot, and I think most of us do that when you're in that situation. We tend to prayer a lot, seeking comfort and strength, really in my strength. Fast forward, I went back for review after a couple of months of medication. I was nervous, but very hopeful. So the doctor then told me that I was in the clear. I clearly remember that I was overwhelmed. I have no words to explain how I felt in the moment. Because I think we all know when the C word to refer to cancer is used, I don't think anyone wants, we all know where that ends, So the feeling of relief was really indescribable. And I say that it was the best day of my life because it really marked a new beginning for me. And it was a reminder that no matter how dark things may seem, there's always hope. And if you really, really put in the work, because my favorite saying is nothing worthwhile comes easy. You actually have to do some of the work to make sure that to add value to what you hold dear and what's important to you. So it really does taught me the importance of appreciating life's blessing in all its forms, because through that pain, I was reminded of,
Sheila,
like,
that is,
yes, please.
I said that is really, really heart touching, I believe. But for the interest of time, if you can we can have it shortened.
I have actually finished. I was just saying it was really a very it was my bulb moment to really appreciate life and the blessings that it comes with. So I have been cancer, ulcer free since then. I do not honestly remember the pain and how it feels like. If someone says that they're in pain with ulcers, I don't think they remember. I remember how that feels like. So I would like to hear from the rest of us. Let me check the charts.
Okay, I think people can Sheila, if you can have people post in the chat box,
Yes.
so that for the interest of time.
Yes. So I have I have a couple of them in the chat. I'll read the English ones because I really can't understand. I can't speak French. I can't speak some of the other languages. Someone says the day they left high school. Another is the day they graduated. I'm pretty sure those are some days, yeah, because you're done with school and everything. Someone else says when in 2010, when they got a constitution away from the independence fund, it was 28th August 2010.
Oh, I see.
That's
Also
really
somebody saying
awesome.
my best day is the day I gave birth to my son. I appreciate all
Oh,
yours. So
that's
I
really
think yeah. So I think if you can move to the next item on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Last week at our first session, during our discussions, we learned that power is at the heart of the injustices we work on, and that these injustices are supported by people or institutions, plus enablers within the community. Think of power as the engine that drives these injustices. In the breakout group discussions, we analyzed how power manifests in the injustices we're fighting. And it was also good to see at the end of the session in our WhatsApp groups that people were using the power analysis to see how these affect the injustices that we're working on. And Daniel, a community paralegal from Kenya, who works with Inyando Human Rights Advocacy and Development Network, said land and property injustices against women, especially widows, were the injustice that they were fighting on. And some of the pillars he identified that were supporting this injustice were the traditional norms, outdated traditional norms, patriarchy, the Ministry of Land, local administration, chiefs and their assistants, the police, and ignorance of the law. And that the most crucial pillar was the Ministry of Land itself. Now, Ministry of Land, the police, the local administration, they are the ones who have the power to be fair, and yet they're the ones who are perpetrating these injustices. He also identified community enablers in the community enablers as being the brothers-in-law, parents-in-law, chiefs, and village elders, and that the most critical community enabler were the in-laws, which is sad. Then Gloria from Future, for Future NGO based in Benin, they work on environmental injustice in disadvantaged communities where people are most affected by pollution, toxic waste, and lack of access to clean natural resources. From their own power analysis, they came up with the following pillars as being that support these injustices as being the polluting industries that operate unchecked, local and national governments that fail to implement strict regulations to protect the environment and the people themselves, and that at the community level, the enablers were the communities and individuals who were ignorant about the environmental risks to which they were exposed. For them, the most crucial pillar supporting the injustice were the polluting industries, which have the economic and political power, that is the money and the influence to continue to operate without care of the environment, nor concern for the health of the local populations that they're in. The elements of the community that support this injustice often include prevention, pressure groups, local businesses that benefit from the unsustainable exploitation of natural resources, and individuals who are apathetic or ignorant of environmental issues. And the biggest reason for this injustice that keeps happening is probably because people in these communities just do not know enough about environmental issues, and they don't realize probably how bad pollution is, and that they don't have to accept it as normal. So I'd like to say big thanks to everyone who participated. Now we see how power analysis helps, and we can target the root causes, weaken the powerful institutions, and empower people in the communities to fight back. Remember that power fights power. I'll hand over to Amy to take us in the next session. Thanks.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you
merci.
very much.
Merci, Amina, pour partager le bon exemple.
Thank you very much for sharing this good example in the Benin and in the Kenya. It was very interesting examples, how the community could sustain the injustices and les injustices perpetrated at the community level by the community itself are the worst, because this impunity at the local level paves the way for bad governments and institutions to flourish. It's not an easy question, but when we think of it, and when we think about this sentence from Charbonnel, we have to work with the communities to strengthen their power and to fight against the bad practices and also the bad institutions and protect the communities. Another thing I would like to share is the role of law. The law is a very important piece, but the law, in order to be a source of injustice, many laws do not protect communities. Normally, the drafting of laws should be preceded by community consultation to ensure that their specific concerns are taken into account. This is often not the case. That's why we see unjust and weak laws whose application is problematic. So we have to use the knowledge to advocate for the implementation of the proper laws. But it is also true that in order to have good laws, the challenge is also in the application of these laws. And I would like to share also an observation of Ibrahim Mbake in Senegal. He says that in general, we see the problem when the government actually closes agreements with certain companies. But there is the failure to apply contractual and legal provisions. So, according to us, for Namati and for the Grassroots Justice Network, it is why we must always give the priority in our advocacy to training to give communities the capacity to influence local laws. Now we see that how can we build power? Who and what keeps us from building power? We have to strengthen the power. We have to challenge, identify the actors, and make sure that the injustices can be challenged. We are to talk today about how to build power and who and what keeps us from building power. How can we overcome the power and we will talk about what we must do within the community, but also how can we strengthen their power? That will not happen by magic. We need a strategy, we need stories, we need examples, we need persons, testimonies that can inspire us and they can help us in our path, in building our path. And we are going to talk with people today who are going to help us and tell us how we can actually achieve it. And at last, for me, there is this Indian author, Arundhati Roy, who tells us that when we speak with people, it is very easy. It is very easy to actually seems to give voice to the people who don't have voice, who are voiceless. It's a declaration that is absolutely key. There is really no such thing as the voiceless. There's only the deliberately silent, so the preferably unheard crimes or where you don't have any procedure. For example, we have seen in many countries that the legislation doesn't take into account the opinion of the community. And that's how we have the preferably unheard. We all have a voice, but the injustice, the systemic injustice actually doesn't allow us to use our voice. And that's why we want to talk about how we can overcome those obstacles, those hurdles. That's the reason why we want to work with the community. I'm going to now pass the floor to talk about the first step of the colonization of a community. That's your turn, Gloria.
Good day, everyone. I hope you are well. Am I audible?
Yes, we are. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and I hope you're enjoying the session so far. And I'd like to thank you all for making time to attend today. And I will be taking you through the next chapter of this discussion, which is on the discussion of why what is the first step in building community power. So drawing from the conversations that we have listened to by Amina and also Amy, and also from the other discussions also by Ismail, you can definitely see that there are various steps that need to be taken in terms of building community. We always say that 1,000-mile journey that begins with one step. And this is one of the first things that as we build capacity, we seek to see how to best build community power. During the week, we did share in the broadcast WhatsApp message, we did share a poll. And so at this moment, I will call upon just two of you, one from the Anglophone side and another from the Francophone side, to share their views on why they voted as they did. We gave three options, which were in terms of developing community power, or the first step towards building community power, we gave three alternatives, which were developing grassroots justice leadership, also sharing knowledge with the community on the issue that is affecting them. There's also the option of connecting with different communities facing the same justice issues, as well as teaching them new skills. And so in that regard, I'll just call upon those who voted for developing grassroots leadership to share with us why they voted as they did. I'm not sure if Mtendela is in the room. Mr. Danny Mtendela, are you present? Apologies for bombarding you, but hello. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating in the poll.
Est-ce que vous pouvez répéter la question?
Could you let us know why you think the first steps why do you think that developing grassroots leadership is important? Did you hear the question? Hello? I believe that.
Oui, hello?
Hello?
Ok, merci.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Proceed.
We are sorry, the sound of Mr. Mtendela is very poor at the moment and we can't understand. We will be doing our best. Thank you for your understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
There was a hand up. Sheila raised her hand. So if you want to call Sheila, but please, if you are speaking because of translation, before you speak, you slow down so that the interpretation can go. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, yes, Sheila, do go ahead.
Oui, hello,
Yes,
madame.
hi there. I also voted for developing grassroots leadership. I believe that it's of course all the other two options are equally important, but I believe this is more important because it builds the capacity, it identifies and develops the local leaders who can, drive the change and sustain the initiatives, because we will empower the community, that we will do, but if there's no leadership, it will not be a sustainable plan. It will just end up, pouring. Everyone will go back to their business. There will be no one holding anyone accountable. And I believe it's very, very important to have accountability if we're trying to build community power. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. Monsieur Mtendela, would you?
There's a hand up. Let me
Okay,
help you, Glory. There's a hand up. There was Lamine. Yeah.
Lamine.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. Mr. Lamine, you can go ahead and speak. Thank you so much, Sylvester.
Voilà. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. So I think that the grassroots leadership at the local level is the most important, because as Amy mentioned, we need to speak for the silenced people, and it is necessary for people to voice themselves, to express themselves. And that's why I think it is important to develop this leadership at a local level so as to capitalize the results. Because in any organization, if we do support a community and fight for this community, if I do leave this community because I'm not a member of it, my efforts will be useless. The community themselves do have to fight for their voice and for their causes. I think it is the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I can see there's so many hands up. We thank you very much for your contributions. However, due to time constraints, we would just request that you share your comments in the chat. We'll definitely peruse through them and be sure to note them during the discussion, and even feel free to share them during the breakout sessions that we'll have later on. Either way, it's amazing to hear what you our paralegals have to say about that with regards to guidance for the community and ensuring that the voices of the people are heard and are not diluted. Just going forward, we would like to urge you to participate in the polls that are shared on WhatsApp. It's usually on the broadcast meeting, but your various coordinators and support personnel will definitely be sure to share the polls with you in your groups as well.
Glory.
I pass it on.
Glory,
Pardon?
before you go, we've picked Mil. Can we pick Fatima Mata before we go? Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Her
Okay,
hand was
thank
up
you.
so that she will be the lady to speak, then we can proceed.
Okay, thank you. Fatima, you have the floor.
Hi everyone, Sylvester.
I think we can hear you, so you can hand over, please. Thank you.
Okay, Miss Fatma, I'm sorry, we can't seem to hear you. You could just put your comments in the chat, and then we'll proceed on to the next person. I would like to hand over to Dr. Annette Mbogo. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is not Dr. Annette, this is Joy from Kito Cheshiria. I will be standing in for Dr. Annette. Thank you, Glory, for that insightful session. So during our last session, we defined power, and we essentially stated that power is being in a sphere of influence or control or authority over others. Today, however, we want to define community power. I'd like to hear from you. Kindly put it in the chat. When you hear the term community power, what comes to mind? I would also like to pick a few people, just one Francophone speaker and one English speaker that could kind of give us an answer to what comes to mind when you hear the term community power. Do we have anyone that would like to share what comes to mind when they hear community power?
Daniel, your hand was up earlier. I don't know if you want to take this opportunity to answer this question. Okay.
Okay, we have Ms. Sheila. Kindly go ahead.
Et merci beaucoup, madame.
Awesome. Okay.
Hello.
Oh, thank you very much. This is Daniel. Thank you.
Please proceed. I'll share later.
Oui, je peux y aller?
Yes, if I may bring about a comment.
Oui, vas-y.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Moi, c'est
Yes, thank you very much. I am Daniel. I come from Benin, and as for the question you're asking, for our activities, we have learned some lessons, such as the issues related to the community, because sometimes you do ask something to a member of the community about suffering problems and so on and so forth, and this person has the sensation that nobody will hear her. So it is important to work so that at the community level, all the people are heard, and that together we could generate naturally some leadership that will be able to voice our message. We do have to have a collective conscience about the day-to-day issues. We do have to be organized and implement some actions so as to be more efficient. That's my point of view. Thank you for hearing me.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Mesan can go. Mesan, you can please unmute and speak, but please let's keep our answers short as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, can I go after him?
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Community power is the whole of the skills in the field of leadership that the community has so as to answer to the injustices. This power can be found in law. It can come from the leadership and in the tools that the community has to give an answer to the injustice situation. It can come from many things, but we have learned in the several trainings we have been followed last years that the first thing to do is to act in a united way so as to be able to fight injustice. The power is union, and together we will be strongest. We will be stronger to fight injustices using the law, and it will help us to give a voice to the silenced and unheard people. So the determination of community power will depend on several factors, several community factors. May I follow? May I follow because I wanted to add something?
Allô?
Ça va, Mesan, on a bien écouté ce que tu as dit. Je passe la parole maintenant à Joy.
Thank you, Mesan. I give the floor to Joy.
Thank you very much for sharing, Mesan. I would like to give Susan an opportunity to share, and then kindly allow us to move to the chat box so I could read a few responses. And after, I'll ask my colleague Glory to help me read one of the Francophone answers, and I will read one English response. So Susan, please.
Yeah, I would, thank you so much. The community power simply means the capacity of a community, a particular community, as a united group to influence an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. So I'll move over to the chat. feel free to keep sharing your responses in the chat. Shem Irungu says, when I think of community power, I envision a collective strength derived from the unity, cooperation, and shared goals of a group of people within a community. This power often manifests in the ability to effect positive change, address common challenges, advocate for shared interests, promote overall well-being and progress within the community. It's about individuals coming together to leverage their combined resources, skills, and voices for the greater good. Thank you, Shem. Glory, could you please help me read one French response?
Okay, so thank you very much, Joy. I'll be reading from Habibi. He or she says, I'm not quite sure the gender, but they say le pouvoir communautaire. Apologies, just lost. Pouvoir communautaire est la capacité d'une communauté.
The community power, says Hama Bubakar in the chat, is the capacity to influence.
Et la capacité de communauté à agir
the
ensemble
capacity of the community to act together depending on the choices that are made and the policy decisions that will have an impact over their lives.
Thank you. Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to Joy.
Thank you so much, Glory. So I will read a quote from Evans Otibine. A community that is empowered is a community that has the ability to recognize the problem they're facing. They're able to come together, organize themselves, mobilize themselves around the problem, and raise their voices until action is taken, and also to ensure that once that action has been taken, they create systems and structures to ensure that they don't revert to the problem they had initially. So essentially, from what we see from Evans' quote and the responses I'm getting both from the chat box and what has been shared, it's evident that we have defined community power as communities that have been most impacted by these injustices, communing together, coming together, and having a great influence or say and control on decisions that affect their lives. Also, the power we are building in and with communities is within a certain context to counter the power of bad actors and bad laws or systems that cause inequality and injustice. We are building power to confront and challenge injustice by finding, mobilizing, and joining hands with others who face the same injustice or care about the same cause. I will now like to hand over to Morgan to take us through how we build power in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, everyone. These answers are amazing. We're gonna put them all together and we'll share them back with all of you. And we'll also share them with the whole Grassroots Justice Network around the world. We're gonna summarize everything, all the inputs, all the things y'all are sharing. We're gonna summarize them and send them out because they're amazing. These definitions of community power really capture all of it. Communities that are able to come together, determine their own future, and make and influence the power holders. So I'm not going to say anything more about that. Y'all nailed it. I do want to mention a couple of things about how do we build that power. So how do we get a community that comes together? How do we get a community to the point where they can influence those who make the policy or implement the policies? How do we do that? That's a big question for this group that I want to put to you all. We're going to talk through it today, and we'll talk through more next week, some of the big challenges and how do we get over them. But I want to offer first 4 pillars that we can rely on. If we imagine that triangle that's held up by pillars, the triangles of injustice that many people share, that the police, that law, that corruption, that prejudice, that holds up injustice. How do we build our own pillars that hold up the community and that let us be empowered in the ways that we're all sharing in the chat and by voice? 4 that I want to propose to you. And they might be slightly different for you in your work. This is what it looks like in my work. But I think there's a lot of commonalities for us to discuss. The first is, and this is not in order. I think we can make the case for starting in different places. But the first is community education. People knowing their rights. And not just knowing their rights, but feeling confident enough to exercise those rights, to demand those rights. There's a good reading that Amy shared in the WhatsApp, if you're interested in going deeper, with one approach, a feminist approach to community education that I think is interesting. I think it's a good resource. The second, we call casework, grassroots casework. This is where we use the law. We help people know the law and we use the law. You may do this differently, but this is the cases where we try to help someone specifically. I saw some good examples in the chat when asked about your happiest day of your life. A few folks spoke about moments in their work where they've helped someone overcome an injustice. Maybe their land was stolen from them. Maybe it was a child who was kept out of school because of their gender or ethnicity. Maybe it was someone who was jailed wrongly. This is the point where we help people improve their material conditions right now. The third pillar is one that a few folks spoke to earlier from the WhatsApp poll about grassroots leadership. I think these did a good job. So I'll just add that we don't do any of this alone. We all do our work a little bit differently, but we all rely on certain people who stand out. Maybe someone that we've helped in the past. Maybe someone who has trust in their community. And it's not always, in fact, it usually is not someone with a big title, someone with a big position or a big job. We all know the people in our communities who help other neighbors, who others go to for advice, who seem to know what's going on everywhere. These grassroots leaders are the ones we need to invest in and give them more responsibility so they can carry us forward. Everyone, I agree with so much of what folks said earlier about grassroots leadership. And the last piece is when we actually make the changes, the collective action. Some of the definitions of community power emphasize this, the ability to influence how the law is written or how it's implemented. Once we know the law, once we're confident to use it, once we have grassroots leaders who can guide everyone, then we can act together to not just fix one case of injustice, but to fix the entire system that allows that injustice to happen. So in other words, we can hack down those pillars that hold up the injustice, and then we can build our own in its place to hold up our communities. So in that sense, I'll leave you with the idea that each of us on this call is an axe that cuts down those pillars that hold up the injustice. But each of us is also a hammer that is building up new pillars for our communities to be powerful.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Morgan has really shed light on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Morgan, for the presentation. And you have shed light on essence of community power, emphasizing the pivotal pillars of community education, casework, grassroots leadership, and collective action as pathway to meaningful change. These are our roadmap to real change. So thank you again, Morgan, and let's all reflect on that presentation. So we asked at the beginning of this course, what keeps us from building power? And your top 3 answers were the community is active, but the government and local authorities are not responsive. The community understands what the issues are, but they do not unite to address the issues. Communities believe NGOs have money and will only participate in activities if there is funding. So now we go into our groups and really analyze and discuss these life challenges that keep us from building power while focusing on key tactics and strategies. So each group has been assigned different set of questions, and we will share the outcomes of the discussions in the next session during recap. I therefore invite Sylvester to share instructions on how to join the groups. Sylvester.
Esther, thank you very much. So for the breakout rooms, the groups has been named just as it appears in the WhatsApp community. So what will happen is that once we open the rooms, you would just scroll down past the participant, then you select the name of the room that you are in, just as the WhatsApp community. So please, I am taking my time because I want the translations to go very well so that everybody can join a group. Your group organizers have been assigned questions like Esther said, and that would be shared in your respective groups. So please, you scroll down. I'm opening the rooms now. You scroll down and then you select your groups. Thank you.
Est-ce que c'est possible de mettre la question dans le chat? Is it possible to write down the question in the chat?
It will be shared in the groups. So please don't worry. Just get to your breakout rooms and then your leaders will share the questions with you. Again, the questions will be shared on the WhatsApp page in your respective WhatsApp pages. So you would have those information in your respective WhatsApp pages. So please join your breakout rooms. The rooms have been open. Kindly scroll down and select a room for yourself. The rooms have been opened. Kindly scroll down past the participant and select the name of the room you are in on WhatsApp.
Okay. Okay, ça va.
Okay, we may proceed.
Everybody back from a group. and I hope we were able to get a lot of experience sharing going on. We will listen to an organization called Undulum Vet, who will be sharing their experiences on the work that they do. So I hand over to Undulum Vet. Is he there?
Oh, Ibrahima? Ibrahima, est-ce qu'il est là?
Is Ibrahima here to take the floor? I can't see him on the list of participants. Ibrahima, are you here, or is there anybody from the organization in Dulumver? Ibrahima?
Est-ce que tu es là?
Are you here?
Oui, je
Yes.
parle.
Okay, okay.
Yes, I'm here. I will share the floor now, the screen, sorry. Okay. Hello to everybody. Thank you, Amy, and welcome to all the participants. My name is Ibrahim Ya, and I belong to Ndulumvert, who has taken the initiative in Senegal. It's a community initiative that is trying to strengthen the role of the community against the negative effects of the climate change. This project wants to work on the resilience of all the community around. We do a series of activities around awareness raising with community players, men, women, young people, school children, but also with farmers, breeders, political players. We use a lot of tools, radio broadcasts, local television, broadcast, and various virtual panels. We do training sessions to strengthen the skills for the community people in order to produce to grafting and seeding maintenance. We do very practical training for the maintenance and for technical activities of forestry code, environmental code, etc. And we also try to reduce the exploitation of reforestation and doing actions of cleaning up and waste management. We also work on the advocacy with local and national political decision makers, local councillors, ministries. It's a transferred competence, but the environmental dimension is not completely taken over by the local people. That's why we want to organize at the local level certain operations to implicate the communities in a series of actions. We will come back to that later on. We do also public actions, but also not only reforestation. In this context, in the years of 1970, there was a very, very bad drought, and our regions was really not, was very much victim of that. We have, there is some very bad noise in the background, and we cannot translate. Okay. That's the failure. There was a failure of the government on the reforestation. So the deserts advanced a lot. So we had negative effects of climate change, and we needed to strengthen the resilience of local communities. That what has pushed us to engage the community and to respond to this very advanced situation. So we mobilize all the social and professional strata of the local community, and we try to mobilize the actors, and we try to widen the scope of people we can implicate, customary and religious authorities, youth organization, women's group, families, teachers. But also, we also try to do mobilization on a virtual manner, virtual platforms. So we mobilize all the sons and daughters of the community who live outside the village for professional or educational reasons, the diaspora, and we use the WhatsApp with them. And they are essentially the main backers of our group, of our project, so that we can implicate them in the debate around co-construction, co-building. What are their challenges? It's to sustain the mobilization of the community. It's really a challenge for us. We need also communication and transparency in the use of community resources, the accountability of the community. And also, we need to use our virtual platforms, the WhatsApp, to mobilize all the sons and the diaspora, and we need to maintain the decision makers, the local decision makers implicated to sustain the fight against climate change. From the point of view of including the community in the decision-making structures, we have the community assembly that today constitutes the global instance in the locality of Grumadi. So that's where we sustain ourselves in this community assembly, so that everybody and also all the diaspora is actually represented in this community. Then we have a steering committee that with about 20 people with different skills, with the diversification of their skills, etc. And it's an orientating committee. And we have also a technical committee that have with experts, forestation experts in climate change and environmental change. So the challenges is to maintain the ongoing operation of governance frameworks and sustaining the commitment of the community members. You see, we illustrate what happens when the authorities are unresponsive. In Senegal, it's the case in most cases. The climate dimension is really not being attended, and we don't have support or so we have really a lack of local environmental policies. There are certain documents or planification tools, but on the local level, but the dimension, the environmental dimension is not taken into account. That reflects that the local authorities don't have a real proper understanding. And that is translated by the fact that there is no financial support from the local authorities on the project. We will come back on that scheme. And for the strategies, we are still hopeful to have aware sessions for the elected leaders on the climate change, and also the advocacy at the national and at the local levels. So we want to base ourselves on the training, on the awareness sessions, and on the advocacy. The advocacy that leads is being led at the national and local levels. It's the communities themselves that do local advocacy. So we try to transform the elected and in allies within the community initiatives. We have to note as well that our initiative, or Tulundu Vert, could be actually used as a base for other case. So the other challenge also that we have is to integrate integration of climate questions in the local planification. 70 or 80% actually are coming from the local level on those climate issues. Here we have linked with the base problem. We know all that we need the community sponsorship at the national level, at the international level. We have real preoccupation to actually get in touch with some proper funding. So unfortunately, the funds that we have are very scarce, and they can't respond to the climate issues. So we have strategies for individual sponsorship or group sponsorship. It would be the sponsors community, as we can say. In 2019 and 20, we have concentrated on individual sponsorship. That meant looking for people and individually, and we would ask them to sponsor a tree, for example. That was very difficult to get results. So what we do, so we have individual sponsorship. They have to pay like 20 euros per tree, if I understand it properly. The person who sponsors give actually his name to the tree that has been sponsored. For example, he can give also the name of a deceased person, a close family member. After that, we decided to concentrate on group sponsorship. For example, group of women. And in this way, this situation has pushed certain collective support and implication to actually work out. So since 2018, we have 4 or 5 million per year that come from groups sponsorship. So what we mean by that is in this community program, we actually don't have funding from the ONG. We have to look for the funding ourselves. So the challenges that we have for that. So we need to reinforce the trust in the community of sponsors. We have this community of sponsors and we really need to work the relation with them. And we need to show them the results. We need to give them the information. We need to have transparency principles, accountability towards them. And we have the database of all those sponsors. And this is really based on a principle of transparency. And also to find other mechanisms innovative that would help us to mobilize resources. Maybe not endogen supports, but exogen, meaning outside the community. And it would be financing that would come, would be outside, financial support that would come from outside the community, but that would support the community itself. So that's
So it is a slide, very basic, with the main aspects of protection, education, the waste management, and so on and so forth. And also because we are doing a lot of activities of reforesting, we are working with technical services so as to implement actions for the regeneration of forests, to have new species, to have indigenous species also. And it is a way to have new opportunities. So sponsors are a good way of doing it, and this sponsors community will sure be very, very helpful in those actions and measures. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I remain available for any question or comment.
Thank you very much, Ibrahima. That was very enlightening. I'm keeping my video off because my internet has become unstable. But from what we can see, this building community power, using the steps that we've been highlighting, and also even the pillars that are supporting this injustice, which is climate change, how it's affecting their communities. They have shared a lot. And I don't know if maybe there are questions, if anybody has questions that they would like Ibrahima to respond to, you can either write it in the chat or raise your hands. Any questions or comments maybe?
Oui, Amina, ce que je vois dans le chat, je vois félicitations Ibrahima.
Yes, I see there are some congratulations to Ibrahima for this presentation. It's a very inspiring and participative presentation. It's a source of inspiration. Mohammed says also congratulations to Ibrahima. It's a wonderful initiative and a very instructive one also. Thank you.
C'est à toi, Amina.
Yeah, thanks. I see people are asking if the slides will be shared with them. Yes, we will. We'll be sharing the slides. I actually have a question myself for Undulum Vert. Are you a community organization or you're an NGO that identified a problem? And I know Vert means green. Is Undulum maybe the name of the community? Just wondering. And then after Fatumata has her hands raised up, she can, I don't know, Ibrahima. Is he still there, Ibrahima? Is Ibrahima there or somebody? Please remember you can write your comments or questions in the chat.
suis là, je pense que
Je pense qu'il est là. Ibrahima, vas-y.
I think that Ibrahima is here.
Okay.
Yes, yes, I am here. What was the question, please?
My question was, is Undulum Vert a community-based organization? It came up as a result of this issue, or is it an NGO that's working with, I don't know if Undulum means the name of the community. Just trying to clarify.
Ok. En réalité, ce qu'il faut dire à ce niveau-là.
What I can tell you is that since the 1970s, things are hard and we are trying to give an answer in several ways. One of them is to observe the situation and try to answer to the endogenous factors. But in the last 30 years, we had no NGO to help us with the activities. We implemented several initiatives, but we were lacking of a community diagnosis. So today, the follow-up was one of the issues we had. We tried to follow our strategies and our actions, trying to capitalize on them so as to drive our activities further in time. But we do take into account the endogenous aspects. I can see there are a lot of action in the chat. So maybe another question from Anjani from Benin.
Fatumata Kante has her hand up. Fatumata Kante, she has her hand up.
There is also Fatumata. That was
Fatumata, you can ask your question. Your hand is raised.
Raising her hand and wanted to ask a question. Fatumata, you can go ahead.
Okay, maybe Amy, there's a question in the chat, it's in French. Okay.
Yes. Voilà, il y a une question ici de Ange-Marie.
Yes, Ange-Marie is wondering how the fund collection is done. Is there a voluntary donation? Is there a fixed quantity? Daniel is asking the same thing. Yes, thank you. We are working through distribution points that are our mechanism that we've chosen. They are doing some instantaneous and direct sendings, and through the help of the community diaspora, we are receiving help also, and we can achieve directly more results. So we are going through those channels, making the most of the present tools. So we are sending through companies such as RIA, and we try to have the greatest traceability so as to be sure of what we are sending and if the funds that we are sending are safely received. During the first years, we had fixed a certain amount, but it was not enough. We had to buy some things, and we also had to motivate the people in the community. So that's why we did introduce this system of sponsors so as to increase the help. Thank you very much, Ibrahima. Fatoumata wanted to share something, and she wrote in the chat about the strategy that's used to convince the sponsors to accompany, to support the initiative. It's a very good question, and I think we could share this in the WhatsApp group.
Yes, I think that's good. We're running out of time. Thank you very much, Undul Ibrahima, for sharing. I will now hand over to Morgan. Morgan? Morgan?
Yeah, thank you, Amina. Thanks, everybody. Just to wrap up, so many themes we've seen here today. That in Dumoulin captured a lot that was in my breakout group about how we work with local officials. Sometimes we work with them as partners, as collaborators. Sometimes we have to hold them accountable. So that collaboration and confrontation, we bring them both together. Really cool to see how different groups are doing that. I think we'll speak more about that next time. A couple of things to leave you with. In fact, can you go to the next slide? I really want to leave folks with a quote from a man here who was not African. He was Brazilian, Paulo Freire. And he had a lot to say about community education in particular, which people spoke to last time and a little bit this time. And a big question he had for strategy was on the screen here. What can we do now in order to be able to do tomorrow what we are unable to do today? The spirit of building power. We have some power now, but we're trying to build it. And I think it's really interesting to reflect on what we've heard today, even just this last presentation. We're working towards big, huge changes of whole systems. So we need to build power at that level. But at another level, we just need to say, how can we be a little bit stronger tomorrow? How can my community be stronger? How can these grassroots leaders be stronger? How can the local officials I work with be stronger? Just on a day-to-day basis, how do we build that power? And then when we zoom out, how do we build that big power to get the ultimate wins of justice at a systemic level? that's the quote I think we should reflect on. I want to leave everyone with, think about how that shows up for you. Think about how you can speak about that with your colleagues, what you can share with them. You see on the screen some other ideas for reflections and sharing. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. I'll leave it with Sylvester to sign us off, I think.
Thank you very much, Morgan. Thank you very much, everyone. We are so grateful to have the session with you. We are past the time and we are still at 67 participants. Of course, it shows the zealness of people to learn and share. So we are grateful to have you. Once we are wrapping up as a culture, we have to put our cameras on and give our best smile, and we take the group photo. So if Amy, if you're available, then you can do us the honors. Please put on your best smile. And I can remind you with session 2, so that you know that we are session 2 is done by the time you realize you are gone. Amy, we are waiting for you. Amy, you're mute.
Yes, okay. On 1, 2, 3, community power.
Community power.
Okay, I have to do it 3 times.
Community power.
1, 2, 3. Community power.
Community power. Power, power,
One
power.
more time.
In Kenya, we say community team.
Community power.
In Kenya, we say community team.
Bye.
See you next week. It's a wrap. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.